Hello Nitro fans, Racing 393, and this is part 8 of my ACME Condor Nitro rebuild, and we're going to build a rally car out of this chassis. Basically put in a retro body shell with the correct wheelbase that's suitable on this chassis. I'm hoping that the wheelbase isn't proprietary to this chassis, I don't know. Could be a bit of an issue. Had a few issues with other bits and pieces, but nothing major. So you can see here, I've done a little bit of work on the car off camera. It's nothing major at all. I'll go through what I've done. Clearly, the first thing you can see is I've taken the chrome off of the wheels. So they're kind of like a dull, old, off ABS white. There is a bit of damage on one of the wheels on the inside, nothing that a little bit of glue wouldn't fix. I've also fixed the muffler coupling, if you like. I've put that on now, so that's good. Not that you can see from there, but I've also tracked it up a bit because the wheels were pointing in all sorts of different directions. It's still not perfect, but it's better than it was. So they are pointing a bit more straight ahead. That's the front and the rear. I think the rear, well, they should toe in a little bit, but I need to adjust that. The problem is it's on worn. It just screwed together. There's no adjustment, so it's on worn plastic. Well, it's not totally worn, but it's got slight play. So to get them bang on is quite difficult. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to fire this thing up. So I've got a few things here. Fuel line. I'm going to fix the servo in there, the old servo, and the throttle linkage, so that I've got a bit of control when I fire it up. I think it might fire up on a starter box. It does have a pull start, as you can see. That all seems to work fine. So we're going to put some fuel line from the carb to the tank, and then the tank to the muffler for the pressure, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to stick that on. I also sorted out the shock absorbers a little bit, and they do work pretty good actually. The backs are a little bit sticky. I did oil them a little bit, the hinge pins and bits and pieces. This is probably over time. It sits a little bit lower at the back, I think. It might actually want stiffer springs, ironically, but look, I'm not going to buy nothing for it in regards to the springs. So, okay, right, let's start with the fuel line. I'll cut 2 bits, and I'll be back when I've put those on. And there you have it, it's on, so it's not rocket science. Now I think, looking at the tank itself, this is the pickup here, which is, let me just move the camera around, you can see the pickup is there, and that does go down to the bottom of the tank. I think that's got a filter in anyway, so it's possibly a filter within the tank. However, I have put it's a cheap, almost disposable filter, just to make sure. So it's got a filter kind of this end. I wasn't sure whether I should have, that's like the chamber, and then that would be, there's no arrow on this. I can't see an arrow for direction. So it doesn't really matter, I can always turn it around, but it would seem to me that you get the fuel into here, filter it into the carb. That would be the way I would do it. I don't know, or would you filter it here again, and then it flows more into the carb? Is that going to be restricted? Who knows? Am I just making things up? But it is on, so I always run the fuel hose from the carb to the tank clear, so you can see the fuel enter the carb. The pressurized hose from the muffler to the top of the tank there, that pressurizes it, so keeps a vacuum, I guess, to allow the fuel to keep flowing. There's no fuel pump on these. It's just the engine itself is the pump, and the muffler is like the chamber which sort of generates pressure within this tank. Anyway, to me, that looks good. Now, looking good and actually working are two different things. But anyway, we're where we're at now. So I think the next thing to do, I've got the standard servo in there. I'm not planning on using that, as I've said before, but I am going to assemble the steering, the throttle linkage, so that I can operate the linkage by hand, because I've got no receiver in this car yet. So when we come to fire it up, I've got some control over the carb, so it doesn't sort of go flat out. And I want to make sure that, if anything, when I move the car, move the linkage, it doesn't overstretch the carb butterfly itself, because some carbs are butterfly and that's when they turn. Others are like a slide and the carb will go back and forth, sliding back and forth. So this is a butterfly carb. So I'm going to clean the linkage up. That's the final bit now to sort of clean on this car. We'll put that up. And then I've got loads of glow plugs, but not right here at this moment. But I've got to charge my glow starter up. I'm going to try and see if this glow plug actually works as well. And then we'll stick some normal standard fuel in it. We'll give it a prime. And then after all these videos, part 8, have I wasted my time? Looks good anyway, so even as a shelf queen, it would be okay. I can't see why it wouldn't work. I'm not going to really prime this with any, filter application. What's that called? Filter oil. And I've got to put the cable tie around, or the zip tie around the carburetor. I don't think there's much else. No, sometimes I put cable ties on these, but they do fit quite well, to be honest. Right, let's get the linkage out, sort it out, put the servo horn on, and get it linked up so it actually operates as a throttle. And that's the throttle linkage on. It's just set manually at the moment because I haven't got a receiver or anything in the car yet. So I'm going to try and show you a bit of a close-up, because it's interesting that it's important and interesting that this is set correctly. Now I know it's not set perfectly, but you can see here that the carb is fully shut. I'm hoping you can see into the carb. I don't know, but you should see the butterfly should be shut, but literally about half a mil open, and you can adjust that opening in the carb with this throttle screw here. So I've screwed it out or in, depends which way it needs to be adjusted, so that when you have the carburetor fully shut, there is a very small opening to allow fuel still through the engine, and then you open the throttle out just with the camera, so that's its full extent. I'm just looking at myself. Yeah, it's as open as open can be. And then when you do this, that's like that, and then the car isn't braking at the moment. Then the last little bit of the servo there, so that's braking, and it's still open about half a mil, 0.5. So that's the throttle linkage done. What's next? I think that's it. So we're going to charge up actually, there's two things I need to do. Charge up the glow starter. I think the throttle setting here, well, I say I think, that's fine. We've got, we've got a low end and a high end. So the high end needles here, I usually start with that about 4 turns out. So from fully in, I turn it out. The low speed needle, which is this side, which I'll show you that once we get to start it, I've put that flush. So that will help start with the carburetor shut and the carb, obviously the throttle setting, and this low end needle here. And the high end needle will be adjusted once it's running. If I can't get it running, usually, well, either it's something wrong, something else. Usually it's this needle here, the low speed needle. So I'll set that flush, 4 turns out from fully in, half a mil gap when fully shut. That's my start point, and that will invariably, unless there's some abnormalities, but generally speaking, that will start a nitro. It might not run perfect, but you should get it running. So the next thing is to get the glow starter charged, fuel in the tank, and a pull start, I suppose. It's getting quite exciting now, so it's nearly ready to go. Well, run, not go anywhere. Well, I hope it won't go anywhere. But my only other concern is this fuel tank. That used to shut really well, but it isn't shutting like it should now. I don't know why. I can't get that to fully shut. It might just need coaxing. Like I say, it's not going to be raced, and quick pit stops are a necessity. None of that. I suppose when pulling the fuel over, seeing it come up into here would be good. I mean, what I might do is take the plug out, put a bit of fuel in the bottom of the tank, and see if it draws fuel up, but not necessarily into the carb. And I can do that. I'll do that without the plugging, because it's just unnecessary at the moment, because it's I've got to test the plug and charge the starter on that. So right, let me just drop some fuel in, and before we get this, so I've got to wait for things to charge, to be honest. So before we get that far, let's make sure that it's got enough vacuum to draw fuel in. I'll try and, best I can, film that. I suppose the crux of all these videos, this being part 8, now all depends on this very stage. So this is really important. So if I can't get fuel up into that carb from here, I wouldn't think it's anything on the engine. I would think it's to do with this fuel tank. So I can't pressurise it. And I don't want to unnecessarily put strain on the pull starter when I'm not going to actually start it. So this glow plug, well, the glow plug itself is in there. So I need to just try and, I haven't got all my tools here. See, they're in my RC shed. There we go. So this is sort of real time now. I haven't edited this bit out at all. This is as I'm doing it. So with the plug out, I did put WD-40 inside the engine just to protect it while it was sat idle. So I use this is just normal standard fuel you get in the UK, and I've got it in a container. So 16% nitro. It is my go-to fuel. I've got other percentages, but I tend to start with what I think would work. So it's going to put some fuel in. I'm going to put a little bit. I don't want to put too much in there. Like that. Now I'm going to try and do this part of the video in real time. So there's a little bit of fuel in there. Now the thing is, when I pull the pull start, what you've got to see, can you see? There we go. See this line here? We need some fuel in there. Now I'm not going to choke the carb, but let's pull this up. It's not doing a huge amount. Let's see if it's that. So it doesn't seem to be pulling anything. So I'm going to choke the carb. Let's open the throttle. Just choke the carb. Let's see if that works. Yes. So it does actually work. suppose doing it like that would have worked as well, maybe. You prime it. I forgot that a bit. Anyway, that's a good start. So it's gone up into the carb here, into the top. You can see it's a little bit bubbly. That could be many things. It just hasn't had, and so that means it does actually seal enough, which is good. So the next stage is this. Let's fire it up. I mean, I'm going to fire it up without the air cleaner on. But I will put the air cleaner on to protect it while it's sat, while I sort the rest of it out. Yeah. So let's get things charged. And in all intents and purposes, we should have a car that runs, hopefully. Fingers crossed. The next test, this is the original glow plug. So I'll put a bit of charge in my glow starter. So we'll see if this actually glows up. And yes. That's really good. It gets hot very quick. Okay, right, so that's a good thing. That's the original glow plug. All works. We'll get it in the car. Let's get some fuel. Well, it's got fuel. Let's get some fuel in it and let's give it a rip. Welcome to the shed. Right, let's get this primed. I'll do my best. I didn't bring what haven't I brought? Tuning screwdriver, have I got one? Yeah, got one here. Right. Is this going to go or not? Who knows? I just want to sort of make a noise when I turn it off. Oh God. I can smell nitro. It kind of wants to go, but it's not going. Let's go in. Let's check the high speed. Half, 1, half, 2, half, 3, half, 4, half, 5 nearly, so half, 1, half, oops, 2, half, 3, half, 4. 4 turns, but not 5. Right. Try again. I'm going to open the throttle a little bit. Not much. So it works. Woo! I'm not doing more than that. It sounds really good. So let's get back inside. And we'll have a little chat about it. So that was very successful. So it was just, I think the high speed needle was just out a bit too far, and there isn't quite enough throttle opening. So if it was connected to a transmitter, I could have done the trim so it was open a bit more, but that's good. So in a minute, I'm not going to do it on camera, there's no point, but I'm going to put some WD-40 down the bore, just a little bit, just to sort of wash what was in there out. Going to keep the fuel in there, so it is sealing. Everything seems to work. I'm really pleased with that. It wasn't like a running stroke tuning video, because it is reasonably, well, it's not early in the morning, it's early-ish, and it's not super loud, but in the afternoon might have been a better, if it was an afternoon, I could perhaps gone out there and done a little bit of tuning with the carb, because I'm never quite sure where the needle's got to be. But just to clarify, it's about 1 mil to half a mil of idle. It actually wanted a bit more than that because I opened the throttle a little bit, but you can see the idle then was really high because, well, the throttle was open, wasn't it? The high-speed needle, it was 5 turns out, or just under 5 turns. I put it to 4 turns. I've no idea whether it just wasn't enough fuel gone through the system or it was too many, don't know. And then the low speed, I don't know what that's called. Is it a low-speed needle, or it's flush there with the carb? So you've got like I don't know if I can show you, but can you see that? I'm trying to look at the camera as well. So can you see that bit there? That adjustment screw, which I think that adjusts. Well, that's the throttle stop. That might be the idle, or the low jet. What's that called? Is it called low speed needle? It's a needle that goes through there, but that's flush. I've got that flush, so that seemed to work fine. So full steam ahead. So now I can start spending a little bit of money on this. Not much, but I'm not going to skimp on electronics. So it's going to have 2 servos and a receiver. It will be a SANWA receiver, which in itself is expensive. They're like 70 odd pounds. I could borrow one out of a car that I've already got. If I want to do that, maybe I will. No, I don't know, because I don't know. I'm just so finicky about that. Anyway, that's up to me to do what I need to do. So 2 servos, receiver, switch. It's going to need a battery pack somewhere. Receiver goes in here. Battery pack will probably go in there. What else? Yeah, and then I've cleaned the wheels off. The wheels, as you probably saw there, I took the chrome off. Hate chrome, as you're probably well aware. These are really old, nylon wheels. God knows how long. There's a bit of damage on one of them, which I'll need to glue. I'm going to glue it together. And I've got some RIT dye, so I'm going to dye these. Now, I can't... Here's another thing. So you should... When you use RIT dye, you're supposed to, you put the wheels in boiling water. Only not for long, and it should be okay. I'm going to have to try and do that with the tyres on. It's not going to dye the tyres, I hope, or ruin them. It's just like putting them in water. So it'll be fine, and it will hopefully stain the wheels, at least partly red or whatever. Depends how long you leave it in there for, and how the strength that you have the mix. So that'll be that. Now, the problem I've come across, which is what I suppose if you know, is most buggies have a weird wheelbase and width. They're not designed. A buggy chassis is not designed, for the most part, for a saloon or a full-size body shell. They just have the cab in the middle and a wing at the back. It eliminates any problem with what I just said, wheelbase and the width. The general wheelbase and width is completely not what this is. This is 270mm wheelbase, and it's about, or the back at least, 270. So it's a square chassis, square footprint, not chassis, square footprint. So I've looked for body shells. Now what I'm going to have to do, I'll have to get a body shell that's got similar wheelbase. I'll have to look into that. And the wheels are going to stick right out. It's going to look ridiculous. Exactly what I don't want it to do. I'm then going to do a lot of research. So this next part of the video series may take a while. I don't know. What I might do is, to so we've got some more content, is I'll do a tuning video. I think I might do is the tuning video and electrics. That'll be the next part. And in the meantime, the sort of part of that video is going to be what body shell I end up with. And then it will be finish the body shell, fit it on and use it. So to continue with the content with part 9, this is part 8, but part 9 will be electrics and tuning. So we'll hear it running and it'll be, you know, used with a hand controller to get the idle and the speed and the best I can on a bench. I doubt I'll use it outside because, well, if it did turn over or something went wrong, it's exposed the fins. Plus this time of year, it's rubbish in the UK, so it's wet, cold. Unless you get a particularly dry day, I can do it in the garden if necessary, because it isn't particularly very loud, but just to show you sort of it working. So that'll be part 9. And during part 9, I will end up showing you a body shell that I settled with. Now, going back to the body shell, just to sort of clarify, it isn't going to fit. It's going to look ridiculous. So I'm going to get one that's long enough, that's close enough to warrant putting these this wheelbase on. This is 270. I think I was in like a 257. That's too short. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain. I might have to retrofit one on, and then I'm going to have to makeshift or make some wheel arches to make it look like the wheels are covered out some more Lexan. That is not going to be easy, and I don't think I'm quite, my pay grade stroke skill level, I don't think's that high. So I don't know what to do. I'm going to really take my time on that. So between part 8 and part 9, there might be there actually might be a bit of a delay, even though I'm spreading these videos out. Yeah, so that's the plan. Let me know what you think. At least it did burst into life. If I had a transmitter, it would have, you know, I could have trimmed it up on the fly, which would have been easier. But the good news is it all tends to work, and it didn't, and that was real time. I'm not going to edit too much out of that if I can. I'll try, and depends if I was just umming around and not doing a lot. But literally all I did was it took 3 or 4 minutes just to get myself sorted. So I'm going to try and do that unedited. Hopefully you would have seen that by the time you get to this bit of the video. Let me know what you think. So what I've looked, well, Delta Plastics have different body shells. If you know anyone that does body shells that 257 mil, that's the wheelbase between the centers. Not concerned on the width, because I can add bits. Yeah, I've got an idea. It's going to take, I'm going to have to buy some Lexan, but anyway, I'm sort of going off on tangents there. So that's the end of part 8. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed it. You can't see me, can you? Look, here I am. And I should look forward to seeing you again in part 9, which will be just me. That bit will be just be spending a bit of money on some electrics. So that's not going to take a huge amount of time, but getting it bound to a transmitter and operating, and then perhaps a tuning video, that's going to be quite viable. But in the meantime of doing that video and that part of it, I'll be either reading some feedback, or may have searched, or may have got a body shell which can be retrofitted. I'm going to use magnets as well, just for ease, because the pull starts in the wrong part, and the starting box doesn't fit this chassis. So anyway, that's the end of part 8. Please like if you can, and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. And I shall see you for part 9 in the not too distant future. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.